Well, everyone, we're finally here. It's been a long journey, but we've finally reached the end. 5 years of my life have culminated up to this point. It's been a long time since I last ranked the maps. I planned on updating this list as soon as the Last Resort came out, but I never got around to it. I had the whole script written, but I just scrapped it. I think I've finally had enough time to feel out all the Hitman 3 maps and place them into the list. As this is going to be my definitive ranking for a long time, I'm putting a lot of work into this video. As you may notice from the higher mic quality, I'm actually using my phone for this. But anyway, before I get into the list, I just want to say thank you to the Hitman community. This game has been a massive part of my life for the last 5 years. Ever since the day I first got it, I've poured so many thousands of hours into it at this point. And of course, I have to also thank IOI for making the game. And I'm just so thankful that we managed to get the full trilogy in the end, because there was a possibility that we wouldn't. But IOI managed to pull through. And as for Hitman 3 in general, I think it was a good ending for the series. I'm happy with where we ended out. So, without further ado, let's get into rating every single map in the World of Assassination trilogy. Alright, at number 20, we have Carpathian Mountains, Romania, Untouchable. And honestly, you could interchange the last two levels in this list, but I will give Hawke's Bay credit in that it has even a smidgen of replayability. This level is the most linear in the game because it's on a freaking train, and there's literally only one direction to go. The train is a cool concept, but I have no desire to replay this level at all, as it feels just like a chore. It boils down to busy work once you've done it once or twice. And it is for that reason that it is down here at number 20. And coming in at number 19 is Hawke's Bay Night Call. Okay, let's be honest here. This is a training level. I was very tempted to put it below Romania, believe me, but just because the train level is somewhat unique, but I will concede that at least there's a smidgen of replayability here. Most of the community doesn't even count it as a full mission, and that includes me. I feel like 90% of people just count Miami as the first level of Hitman 2. I legitimately forgot this thing exists sometimes, and I just call Miami the first mission in the game. I was originally kind of salty that we got this mission instead of a full-on mission, because it is a glorified training level after all. Sure, it looks nice, and this beautiful nighttime view, but the amount of content and replayability here is minuscule. I'm okay with this though, because they made up with it with the bank and the resort giving us 7 full missions. Still, the bottom of the list though, it's not bad, it's just not a real level. Alright, at number 18, I've put Isle of Scale, the Ark Society. Okay, so every time I look at this list, every few months or so, I question why I put some things higher or lower in the last draft. For some reason, this map was higher than before when I looked at it, but I'm dropping it back down, because as far as my memory serves me, this is not a map I've felt drawn back to in the slightest. Scale is just not the map I think of when I think I want to play Hitman. It's not even bad either. I mean, every map is a masterpiece because IOI are geniuses, but this map just feels so dark and dry. I guess it just doesn't feel special. It doesn't stand out from the crowd of so many other great levels, so that's why it ended up here. Alright, at number 17 is Whittleton Creek. Lesson. If you love this map, then you might want to cover your ears or just skip this section because I'm about to open a whole bottle of hard to swallow pills that any sensitive people just won't be able to handle. Firstly, this is my opinion. This is coming from my perspective. My perspective is the perspective of a player who has over 1,500 hours in the world of Assassination trilogy. I do not mean in any way to imply that this somehow gives my opinion more weight or merit, but what I'm trying to say is that this is how I rate the map for a player with this amount of playtime. Many of the things I find important will not matter at all to a casual who just plays a mission once and only once and never touches a game again. Allow me to give my theory as to why this map is criminally overrated by players. I believe that many players like this map simply because of the Hitman Blood Money mission, A New Life. I think the train of thought goes something like this. Well, all the Hitman pros say A New Life is the best map in Blood Money, and since this is a callback to that, therefore it is automatically the best in the game. When in reality, all it shares is the suburban setting. It's a completely different map in a completely different game. A few references aren't going to automatically make it a good map in my book. I care about the gameplay itself. As for the gameplay, there are a few flaws in this map that other players pointed out in the comments of the last video. Number 1, it is too easy. This will probably attract newer casual players, and I also think this is why so many in the casual fanbase despise Colorado, because it's just too hard for them. This map is so exposed, and you can just spawn in and take a 10-second walk and have an angle to snipe both targets. From there, it's just onto the clues, which are just busy work if you have ever tried playing the map more than once or twice. There's an easy way to get 2 out of 3 that literally just feels pointless after a while, and Diana screaming in your ear when you're speedrunning doesn't help any. The layout is also poor. Small maps can be great. Take New York, for instance. But they can also be bad, like Hawke's Bay. There's too much dead space in this map. Every single house is the same layout, and with how small it is, many of them are either partially or completely inaccessible, which is a disappointment to say the least. It's just a few identical houses with a bunch of nothing in between. This level is not bad, per se. The Vermont autumn look is really good and really beautiful, but it is so criminally overrated in the community. Alright, at number 16 is Bangkok. I don't have much bad to say about this map, and I guess that's why it's not higher, really. This map is super beautiful with its theme, but it just doesn't stand out among the pack for anything else, I guess. From comments I've seen on the other video, there are definitely layout issues with this map. The complete separation between the penthouse areas is kind of annoying. Also, a lot of people have been saying it's a struggle to get up to the King's Suite with suit only, as there's literally the one way in, one way out. Other than the layout, there's not much bad about this map. I guess Ken Morgan is a super boring target who doesn't do much interesting. But it's still a beautiful map, in my opinion. And coming in at number 15, we have Marrakesh. So I know I rated this one really highly last time, but these lists are always going to be volatile. I feel like I heavily overrated Marrakesh last time. Sorry to all the people who were happy that I rated it so highly, but current day me understands that there is certainly a reason why it took me like 3 months to get around to mastering this map after I had finished all the rest. It's not a bad map. I like the setting. I love the diversity of settings, from the military base at the school to the Swedish consulate, which I really like the design of specifically, but something about it just doesn't make it feel unique enough to stand out among some of the other maps. Number 14 is Santa Fortuna. What can I say about this map besides it's huge? Easily the biggest in the game, followed closely by Mumbai. Now what I mean by this is it's the biggest feeling level. I believe that the size thing is mostly placebo, and for the most part all of the levels probably have roughly the same surface area, besides the micro ones, of course. But this one just feels gargantuan for what I think is a few reasons. The first being, I think we mentally underestimate the size of some levels like Dubai and Chongqing, which are a little slimmer but have tons of layers. But the second reason is that there's 3 targets in distinct areas separated all around the map. Take Sapienza. It's a huge map. Hey, maybe even bigger. It has a whole city with distinct areas, like a church, the town hall, all the ruins and stuff, and it's got plenty of layers too, and accessible buildings. But the thing is, you don't have to traverse all of that just to finish the mission. With Santa Fortuna and Mumbai, you have to go all the way around the map to hit the 3 targets. So it feels really large when you have to run a marathon. I don't really hate this map, and I don't hate the way they chose to do these maps, but it just does kind of burn you out, make you not really want to play around with this map so much after mastering it, due to the large time investment. I guess I just have a thing for really large maps with lots of space you don't have to go to for the main mission, but you can just explore anyway. The theme of this mission is really cool, and there are a few distinct areas, but just not really enough for me. It just kind of seems like endless jungle everywhere besides just the mansion. Still, despite its drawbacks, a very solid mission. And at number 13, we have Mumbai. I've said it before and I'll say it again, this map nailed the environment, which is honestly something that IOI are so great at and don't get enough credit for. The visuals are perfectly fitting to Mumbai, and the soundtrack. I really love the soundtrack of this map, it adds so much to it. If I remember correctly, they sent some of the IOI members to India in order to take notes to design this level, and it really shows for sure. I love how massive this map is with all of its different areas, especially love Rangoon Tower. I guess I'm just kind of a sucker for massive height differences in Hitman or something. However, it can be a little tedious with how big it is, and especially the slums area is kind of hassle to go through. But that aside, I just love how this map looks. For the maps that I feel have an exceptional soundtrack, I think I'm just going to share a few of my favorite bits at the end of this segment, so not to stretch things out or anything. Alright, number 12 is Dartmoor. Okay, I really like this map. The aesthetic is amazing. It feels quite big for a single target mission, which is something I really love. It doesn't make a single target mission feel like they're just scamming us out of something like Romania or New Zealand. And the secondary objective adds a twist to the level, which is what, in my opinion, basically a requirement for good single target missions, just like New York, as opposed to bad ones like Hawke's Bay. The secondary objective adds some more exploration for the first few times you play the mission, and it kind of, in a way, can help substitute for what you lose in a second target, as opposed to just waiting outside and sniping Alexa through a window or something and then just leaving. You have to at least go in and do something. This is another callback mission, from what I've heard, to Beldingford Manor of Hitman Contracts, I believe. I haven't played the game, but that's what basically everyone says, and it makes sense, obviously. I love the dark manor look with the smoke coming out of the chimneys on the top. I love this angle when we first saw the map in the first trailer, and it's like the main image, cover image for the mission. Yeah, it's just so great. It's funny that this sequence does actually show a frame from all 5 maps. I didn't think it would be that way. I guess I didn't know Chongqing Berlin scenes were different maps, and I didn't think that the Diana scene was from an actual map. But I digress. The murder mystery is a unique twist. It gives you about 15 minutes of content the first time you play it, but it's not something you're really going to play with more than once, because you already know everything about it. The mission becomes a bit trivial for speedrunning once you've played it a few times, but I'm fine with that. Again, I really like the look of the inside and outside of the manor. It just fits perfectly. Other than that, it's just a solid middle-of-the-pack mission. Alright, at number 11 we have Colorado. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The hate for Colorado is absolutely criminal. I'm sorry, but if you rate Hawke's Bay or Romania above Colorado, I just don't know what's wrong with you. Scratch that. I might actually know why so many people hate this map, and it's just that it's simply too hard for them. The fact that this whole map is hostile to the suit is what makes many people hate this map. But that's what makes it unique. It's a challenge. And honestly, I'd probably rather do suit only on this map than Bangkok. It's probably easier, actually. That's just going off the top of my head, but it's a challenge to do it suit only in good way, I guess. It kind of forces you to be creative. It's not like it's just making your life hell because there's one path you can take. There's many paths you can take. And honestly, this level isn't even very hard if you use disguises. It's not much harder than most levels at that point. I love the unique scenery, the great soundtrack, which it shares with Hokkaido. It just all fits. The 4 targets is another thing that makes this level special and stand out from the others. It's not the best map, and it lacks some verticality, which is something I like, but it's a solid map. Solid middle of the pack, which some people just hate for the sake of having something to hate. I know some of the people are just memeing, but there are people who legitimately despise this map and think it's worse than Hawk's Bay and such. It's fine if you're a casual player who struggles with this map and doesn't plan on playing the game for enough hours to gain the experience that makes the game easier, but at least give the map a chance instead of writing it off from the get-go because of the stigma around it. Please, I beg you, do your best to be objective when you play the level, and if you still hate it, that's your right, but maybe you can find enjoyment in it. I hope at least a few of the people watching this can get something out of it. Alright, coming in at number 10 is Haven Island. This map is great. It's beautiful, comes with a few unique mechanics like bananas and such, and it has everything needed to just be a solid map, but sadly I can't give it too high of a ranking. I wish I could. But this map came out basically right around the time I burned out of Hitman and basically didn't touch the game for a year. Initially I really liked this map, and I'm not saying I don't, but I remember watching Cody complain about how this map isn't unique enough, and slowly I began to agree with him. I basically hadn't played the game for over a month, and I only got about 2 weeks from this release, then I was kind of off of it again. Whereas the bank felt super unique and special, and I juiced so much playtime into that map. I just didn't quite get the same thing from the resort. It just doesn't really feel like it iterated on the formula in any way, except for banana. I don't think it's the map's fault per se, but it's just me getting tired of the repetition of the standard formula at that point. This is why I really think secondary objectives are important in the newer levels, to give them a twist. I feel like they definitely could have done something more unique with this by adding a secondary objective to do with the data or something. I guess it was just saddening to me that I couldn't really enjoy this level enough to pull me back to playing Hitman instead of just playing some other game, because at this point, what am I going to do in Hitman that's really new? That's why I started the sniper double kill stupid series, to try and find something interesting to do in the game. But as for Haven itself, it's a very beautiful level. I like the whole partially underwater thing. I like the underwater server farm and the soundtrack that plays there as well. Overall, just quite solid, but not special. And coming in at number 9 is Berlin. Okay, there's a lot to say about this one. I know that some people might say that this is the best map in Hitman 3 based solely on gameplay, and I would probably agree with them for that. The choice of targets opens up multiple viable paths, which leads to way more creativity than, say, Dubai, but I'll get to that later. The ability to choose which targets to eliminate is amazing, and I'd say that's what makes this level stand out. I also love the design, specifically of the club area. Also, on a side note, we finally got hostile targets. I mean, it doesn't really make much of a difference, and none of the targets have guards either, which I guess is a really important thing for the design of this mission, because killing 5 targets with guards would make things a lot harder, and people would probably hate this mission like they hate Colorado. Now, if I only cared about gameplay, I'd probably stop there. But I do have some other things to say. I like the whole dark and grimy theme the level's going for, and it is unique in that, but I wish it had more distinct areas. The whole level just feels like it's graffitied concrete left and right, which can make it feel quite monotone and slightly dull, I guess. Sure, there are actual distinct areas, but they don't feel separate enough. That's just kind of nitpicking for me, though. I enjoy the club area a lot, though, but besides the club area, there's not much to the level's soundtrack. It's mostly ambient, which I feel fits it quite well, as the main music is the club and you can hear it all around it. But it doesn't get any extra points for soundtracks, unlike some other levels from my point of view. Alright, at number 8 is Mendoza, Argentina. This map is so beautiful. I feel like I am saying that too much during this video, but honestly, so many of these levels are masterfully crafted, and that's why I love IO. This level is clearly a nod to a vintage year of Hitman Blood Bunny, which was an okay level in my opinion, but the winery theme is great. And I really love where they've taken it this time and how they've expanded it. I mean, you gotta love carrying 30 wine bottles around in your pants to hit people with, throw at people. And this grape press is just great. It's just the little things about this level. A bunch of little nifty mechanics here and there, proxy kills, weird stupid machinery, etc. that make me attracted to this level, aesthetically. Tomer of Adal is quite the boring default target, and the layout is nothing out of the ordinary, but overall I really like this mission, and I am satisfied with it being the final actual mission of the series. Alright, at number 7 we have Chongqing, China. This mission might just be a contender for the most beautiful mission in the game. I don't know if I could ever pick a true winner for that category, as all of these levels are beautiful in their own way, in their own different themes, so it's hard to compare them, but I really love the theme of this one, and I think most people agree. The rainy night with neon signs is just such an amazing theme. I also love the design and theme of the ICA facility, though I do agree with the fact that you have to use the camera to open every door is just kind of forced and pretty much pointless, so it can feel annoying after a while. I did really love the challenge of navigating deeper into this area the first few times, though. Some of the areas of this map are a little less beautiful, specifically the block, which is just super dry looking with no special decoration for the most part. Overall though, still an amazing theme. The layout is a little weird, and the mission seems a little small at first when you look at how compacted it is, but taking into account the verticality, it is still a pretty average sized level. Pretty much my only disappointment with this map is the fact that the data objective is optional. I think extra objectives are a really important part of keeping levels fresh and adding a unique twist when there are so many levels in the game. I know that having an objective in one place can make a level seem too linear, but I think the best solution is to add multiple ways to acquire the data, just like in the bank, which still allows for creativity while keeping the objective. Like, just look at how many ways there are to destroy the virus in Sapienza. That is a good objective. At least in its current state, it just seems like luring Royce out of the facility with the drones is just the best way of completing the mission quickly. Like, no matter what. I think it's way too overpowered, which means we probably won't be seeing the ICA facility in any record runs, which is kind of disappointing because it's cutting off a large and main part of the level, which is sad to see for sure. I suppose another part of this problem is that the mission story is just overpowered as hell. The one in Marrakesh, as a comparison, is a lot more balanced in my opinion because of how long it takes, I guess. As I said with the last resort, the variety provided by extra objectives is just something I really value these days, and it's just sad that this mission's another 2-target mission, when it could have been more. I know that this long speech is making it seem like I have a major issue here with this, but honestly I'm just nitpicking since this level is really great and doesn't have too many flaws in my eyes. This level is another loosely connected callback, this time to Codename 47's first level, specifically the escalation in this map, which is literally just Massacre at the Cheng Chao Fish Restaurant, but reorganized. I actually played that game for the first time 2 days before Hitman 3, and it was cool, but extremely bare bones and janky, and I ended up quitting. Hitman 2 was a lot more bearable, but you had to use exploits just to run safely, which is a pain. I guess once you've been treated to the glory of World of Assassination as your first experience, just quite appreciate the Ultimate's the same. But I digress. Anyways, about speedrunning this map, it allows for a decent amount of creativity, but the whole drone opportunity is just too overpowered. It seems like it's used in every run at the top of the leaderboard. It's just kind of annoying, because this being the strat to go to for records means a lot of the map will probably go unused. Not the worst offender for this, but still. I think if the objective were required, and there are multiple places to get it, maybe away from the drone opportunity, this could help make things viable. I just really don't know. Also, shout out to my run where I double kill the targets with a Jazina silent assassin by destroying the 2 extra drones with wallbangs that nobody knew about. But that's already taken out of the game, so. Also, Chongqing has some bits of soundtrack, which I really like, specifically the music from the block and the ICA facility, as well as a really great theme at the results screen. Alright, number 6 is Dubai. This was a really hard one for me. I know that some people are saying this level is the worst of the 5 real levels in Hitman 3 because it's the most normal of all of them, but I guess I kind of like the normal feel because I might say that after the first 2 missions the story kind of goes off the rails. I wouldn't really put it that way. I would more just say it accelerates so fast. We speed towards the end of the story through like 3.5 missions, covering more ground than the last 2 games in total, if I'm being honest. I'm not really that disappointed in the ending of the game. Well, I guess it was just blood money all over again, but I guess I'm just a little salty that it had to end, really. And this was the most normal feeling level in that it felt like we were just moving ahead like normal, as opposed to rapidly approaching the end of everything. As opposed to the last resort, this level doesn't really feel stale for being normal, I guess. The tower layout really feels unique. In fact, I think the layout is really well thought out compared to a map like Chongqing, which is kind of weird at some times. The layout isn't bad per se, but some areas just feel locked off from others. You know, it's not a smooth route between places. Like, I remember the devs called Sapiens snail house with Swiss cheese. The Swiss cheese are the holes all around that allow you to quickly cut between parts of the level. I have been really torn between Chongqing and Dubai, and I almost considered putting them at the tie, but I'm not going to have a cop-out like that. I think that Dubai edges it out just slightly because I like the layout better. I also really love the aesthetic of this map, all the glamorous gold decorations. It's just so shiny, and I love it. I've often said I think they put a lot of effort into making the first mission of each of the games absolutely stunning and amazing to leave a great first impression. Paris, Miami, and now Dubai have all been the best maps for me on release of their respective games, so I really like Dubai. But there is one massive gripe that I have with this level. It was almost enough to bring it below Chongqing, and it is the speedrunning. I don't know who in the world chose the starting locations for these targets, but it basically made it so the god strat for speedrunning was already discovered before the general public had access to the game. Both targets starting right next to each other, next to an entrance, next to an exit, with one in a position where his body won't be found at all? Hello? That closes off so many possible runs, it's not even funny. The times of these speedruns were so fast that I can't imagine any level of creativity will ever lower them. Ever. Usually with maps, the records can be beat a year or two later by some omega brain strategy, but these runs are so stupidly optimal and easy and fast that I think the strats are basically set in stone. You see, I'm not the kind who wants to just steal other people's strats and tries to optimize them by half a second. There's no fun in that. There's no point, in my opinion. It's fun to do things your own way, not just leeching off of others. This map is just too easy, and the creativity therefore goes down. Yes, there are strategies that have been basically set in stone at this point for all the Hitman 1 maps, but the difference is they have been out for like 5 years now? The strats came to be by discovery, experimentation, and adaptation over a course of 5 years. But right now, I feel like the record for Dubai is under 17 seconds on day 1, it's down to 11 seconds by a week in. Just feels like the doors are closed already. But that aside, for everything else, it's still my favorite of Hitman 3. And coming in at number 5, we have Hokkaido. So I put this one as tied for number 1 last time, but it really was more like number 3. It's fallen a few places, but my opinions haven't changed a bit. I love this map. As the final monthly episode we delivered in Season 1, it was such an important part of what made that game still the best in the trilogy. While Hitman 2 and 3 both had relatively disappointing closers, the Ark Society and the train thing, this was anything but disappointing. While for a while we were unsure if the series would ever go on, this may have been the last map we ever got, but it wouldn't have been a disappointing last map. The aesthetic wintry Japanese mountains contrasting with the cozy interior of the luxurious hospital was great. The month that our final map, came out, I was very happy. I think that this map is pretty good with the layout. There's usually multiple ways to go at any point, and passages cutting through the level. It has the unique feature in that all doors are electronic, which is a complication that has to be dealt with. You could use disposable scramblers, but you only get 3 of them, meaning you had to be conscious of your choices instead of just lockpicking every single door that came your way. Some people turned to the strategy of jamming the sliding doors with items, a creative idea. There were some hostile disguises in the mission, like the motorcyclist, ninja, and baseball player, which also allowed for some more extra challenge in contracts and escalations. This level also had a good amount of cinematic kills, especially all the ones on Soders. The soundtrack, which it shares with Colorado, is still one of the best. And all this together makes this level still great and admirable all these years later. Alright, number 4 is Miami. Again, another amazing first mission. The racetrack is such a great and unique location. I love the scenery of this level, I love all the different areas, all of it. The layout is somewhat unique in that there's a gap of inaccessible area that has to be crossed, but there's many passages to do this. Honestly, I don't know how much more I can say. This map is just gorgeous aesthetically, and there's also so many great things to say about the soundtrack in this mission. The paddocks, driver's lounge, intro song, the music in the pit area, the music that plays when you enter the parking garage, all of it. So good. And coming at number 3, we have New York, the bank. This map managed to surpass Miami as the best in Hitman 2 for me, which is not something I was expecting it to do, but it just was simply because of how unbelievably fresh this map felt. This map did not have the problem that The Last Resort had, where it felt a little too normal. This map was a perfect demonstration of how to do a one-target mission properly. It's a little smaller of a level, but it still feels massive compared to Hawke's Bay or something. They also started to play around with some cool mechanics on this level. For example, the fence, you can shove things down. It's just little things like this scattered around the place that makes me love this game so much in general. Also, the extra objective, just like Dartmoor, adds a little something that I think is a requirement for a one-target mission like this. I just love everything about this level. I love the decoration, the theme, the soundtrack. It fits everything so perfectly. My favorite bit of the soundtrack is probably the bit that plays when you are hanging around the vault area. Alright, number 2 is Sapienza. This map is legendary. I know it's probably the favorite for the majority of fans, and it's pretty obvious to see why. There's a whole city to explore that is loosely connected to the mission, but for the most part, it's just there. It adds so much life to this level. Even if you may see it as pointless, I guess I'm just a sucker for the environment building sometimes. It also gave them room to use in future missions like Icon and Landslide. I love both of these bonus missions, by the way. I know some people baby rage at Dino Bosco's suit or something, but you can't deny that nighttime Sapienza Square with a movie shoot isn't cool at all. I remember when the summer bonus dropped, I had a lot more fun than I was expecting to with not getting a new map at all. In fact, I think that was right around when I got the game and joined the community, so suffice to say I have a lot of nostalgia for Sapienza. But back to World of Tomorrow. The layout is amazing. All of the different secret passageways that weave into the lab, it's great. The whole extra city with the church and town hall and apartments and shops, the Sapienza ruins, great. I still remember my first time walking into the field lab. It's such a unique area contrasting with the rest of the level. I think contrasting sub-areas are what can make a level feel massive and alive, comparing, to Berlin, which is kind of the same tone throughout. Sapienza definitely feels more diverse. The virus is a prime objective, probably the best secondary objective in the game. I think secondary objectives where there's a multitude of ways to deal with it are great for making the level stand out. And there's a multitude of ways to take out the virus. Even though we all only use phone in speedruns nowadays, I still appreciate the way the devs tried to experiment with new things in this level. So many unique kills were born on this map. The golf ball, propane down the chimneys, cannons, shooting down Silvio's plane while escaping, using the hidden virus to kill Francesca, gassing her in the lab acid tubs, etc., etc. A lot of these things ended up becoming threads that were passed on to future levels, like the chimney or cannons or golf balls. All of that started here. I have nothing but immense nostalgia for this map. Speaking of where it all started, the true king of the world Assassination still reigns supreme. Call me biased all you want, but I know a lot of other people in the community who've been here from day one would agree with me on this one. Paris was groundbreaking. Sure, if Haven Island were the first level we ever got, it would be groundbreaking too, but it wasn't. It was just building off the formula that was born here. There was a time when this was the only level in the game. From a perspective back in that time, this was revolutionary. It's the very first level ever, the first impression people would get of this game. You can tell IOI put so much into that map in order to make it a masterpiece. The layout is damn near perfect. It is quite simple, yes, but it just feels so smooth to navigate. Okay, maybe those pipes that go all the way up the building are a little bit overpowered, but otherwise, I can't really complain. I just would love to be in this level in person, not for Assassination, but just to be there. I don't know why, but I would just like to wander the gardens and the basement, staff area, and everywhere. I guess just because their areas are quiet or less traversed by most players. Trust me, I know how biased I am when I'm putting Paris at the top, but that's just the kind of bias you get when you start playing the game way back when. I love the fashion show element, the bar area, just everything is so beautiful in this level and triggers a type of nostalgia in me that's so powerful. We're coming on 5 years now that I first saw this place and the soundtrack. It's on the more subtle end, but so fitting of that fall evening in Paris. When I hear some bits, like the bit that plays when you're next to the sea and river, it genuinely makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I shiver and get goosebumps listening to it, and I haven't for a long time. I also love the bar and of course the fashion show music as well. I'm also having nostalgia for those glorious Square Enix cinematics. What they did with Hitman 3 is a step up from 2, but nothing comes close to how ominous Gray used to look back in the day and everything else. Anyway, what you just listened to is me going off about how stupidly nostalgic I am for this level. I guess if there's one thing to take away, we will have Paris to thank for laying the foundations for everything that was to come. It was, is, and forever will be the best Hitman map.